What's a man gotta do to get that kind of attention from you?
It's hard to say exactly, but you seem to be doing fine.
Well, great. Though truth is, it ain't me that wants you.
Oh?
No, Miss Jacqueline Natla does. From Natla Technologies. You know, creator of all things bright and beautiful.
Seal it, Larson.
Ma'am.
Feast your eyes on this, Laura. How does that make your wallet rumble?
I'm sorry. I only play for sport.
Then you'll like a big park. Peru. Vast mountain ranges to cover. Sheer walls of ice. Rocky crags, savage winds. And there's this little trinket. An age-old artifact of mystical powers buried in the unfound tomb of Qualapec. That's my interest. You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
And that was Primo mid-90s cutscene of pre-rendered cut type, which introduced Lara Croft. And this is the, you could say, the remastered collection version, having a little bit of, you could say, extra, well, of course, it has a bit of more polished graphical presentation, but the enemy designs are, I would say, the character models and all that are just the same as before, and the game plays just like that before, meaning Lara moves like a tank, but when I look at the model, I can see that it's been made way more refined than it originally was. So, but as much as level design goes, this game can basically show everything, because I'm already doing the remake of it, the Tomb Raider anthology anniversary. I could also show the modern review about how the original worked. And the original Lara Croft at the Tomb Raider 1 did not have a ponytail. That came at Tomb Raider 2 on same platform. And that acrobatic jump was the first secret. Yeah, they changed the... But when you look about it, original Tomb Raider, there's you could say, very slight, you could say, improvements of gameplay quality and of course model quality. And if I recall right, it was Core Design which originally was making Tomb Raider games, and a bit of where they were adjusting Lara's character model, and the guy in charge accidentally that area which defines her size of her tracts of land, instead of putting a slight adjustment of about, was it something like a 15%, they put up 150%, and what to say, they liked it. Which is, of course, is the most notable design trait that the character has, and also the one which has been mostly toned down over the successive iterations of the character. Which I can kind of understand why they did it like that. And can I get this secret? In the original one, you could just basically very carefully walk right into the edge of this wall and then just jump up from that. But looks like that has that little trickery has been changed. So now I would have to maybe try this kind of jump. But looks like slight alterations to the gameplay are present. And of course the remastered version has plenty of secrets, plenty of puzzles and trophies to get, meaning that there would be a lot of gameplay to play. But even with this extra polished, nice looking, more nice looking polygons and textures, I can still see that the basic blocks of the Tomb Raider's design are still there. Every level is basically based on slopes with angles and blocks. That's it. Very simple, simply basically not very free level design in that kind of sense, because it's blocked 4 bits block sized. And as I now walk right next to this and looking around, I can still say that yep, Laura can jump forward and cross 2 blocks high or wide gap. Actually, is this 2 or 3? Looks like 2. Can cross that level of gap and take a grapple and can jump over it. And that's it. The basic, you could say, the building blocks of the levels are very simple in that sense. That yep, there's blocks, and you can jump specific heights, you can climb specific heights, and all that. And interestingly enough, this game also used quite lots of things which are nowadays called, or whether say which then were called and still are called, stock sound effects. Meaning to say there was a special CDs, of databases of basically all kinds of sounds, animal sounds, tool sounds, weapon sounds, metallic sounds, which were basically something that you want to use. You get this CD. Or sometimes you might even loan it, and you get this, and then you can just, whatever production or you're doing it, you're using it. For example, if I recall right, classic shooter from that era, the creation of first-person shooters, Doom, used the stock sound of a gun being loaded as part of the loading. Oh yeah, and because of the game's age, specific graphical things are kind of, you could say, a bit wobbly, but I would say that the designers, they were quite aware that you really can't make a really fast-paced action shooter with, 3D gaming was very much in the roots, and if I recall right, Super Mario 64, which defined the 3D platforming, hadn't even come out yet, and neither was very, you could say, daring and practical regarding that game. So there was you could say, very little example of what to do, and over to say, there was very difficult to find out what was right and what went right and what was wrong, because there really wasn't right or wrong. So Tomb Raider in design was very much followed the basic styling of let's do things very solid with these solid platforms and structures, and looks like I killed the bear. And yep, you can also drop down floors, and Laura's got a big massive jump. But combat is not a big deal of this game. Never was, and also never will be. I would say it never was. And instead of just pushing you to the inventory, it just basically lets you know that yeah, that's what you got. So the gameplay is well implemented, although with modern sensibilities it would be limited, and also interestingly enough that even the modern games which do keep Laura's vertical mobility, you could say design wisely intact, do much more of a, you could say, justifications in it, or better say animated in manner which make it way more, you could say, justified, most likely in the sense that she does more of the more acrobatic style of running up the wall, instead partially running up the wall a few steps before jumping. While in this one, it's all just a big massive jumps, which really, well, it doesn't do anything bad for the gameplay. The gameplay of this game is very solid. And because the pacing of the levels is not particularly, you could say, fast, a lot of progress and death can be avoided by just basically looking around and trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing in each and every room and all that, and then just thinking hard and ponderously what you're supposed to be doing, and that's it. And knowing that the original Tomb Raider came out both on PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn and PC as well. I really don't know what platform it was designed for. My guess is PlayStation 1. And that music has spread lots of terror in many players' minds. The peril music. So this game is very, and I think that the more later incarnations of Tomb Raider have suffer in fact that there's just basically so much combat against human enemies instead of game being based on, you could say, more, you could there's Tomb Raider works better when it's when the biggest perils are not in form of enemy soldiers or anything or mercenaries or whatever like that, but more in line of what you're gonna face. Originally this room was one single texture covering that entire wall to make that big mural, which was, when you look about it, this room is just a dead end, but it had that big painting on the wall, which was, I would say, very impressive visual design for the original one. And they've added these little extra holes to make this game, well, the original used darkness a lot. There was big pitch blackness that you couldn't follow, but this one, when it's a remaster, they were able to just make a lot of it. Although I would say that the Crystal Dynamics themselves well, Tomb Raider Anniversary did the remake part better because, well, it's a complete full real remake of the game with completely new stage designs and all that, new character models, new gameplay mechanics. While this is just basically, you could say, very polished port of the original one. And of course, because why would they just basically add the ponytail to Laura? Well, of course, it's a very renowned appearance she had, later got. But why did they add it? It wasn't present in her first adventure, and of course there will be a falling blocks. Classic peril of adventure archaeologists, and of course success of Tomb Raider becoming it was a massive success. Even has a movie adaptation, which I really don't find that good because, well, not because of the Angelina Jolie didn't having a good appearance in a sense. Is quite proper appearance to Lara Croft with quite noticeable tracts of land and plenty of eye candy regarding the appearance. But the plot was very clunky, which was I find it kind of bad. Although I say that the original Tomb Raider game's plot was very much of an excuse that we're gonna do it like that. Yeah. Third Anniversary made this a bit more complex problem to do. It had a timing puzzle and all that. But just slide down there and run to the corridor and get through the first stage. And I think this ends the first, you could say, Tomb Raider. It's a real nice game. Really solid design and beautiful game. So I say that as much as when this game came out, it would have been 10 out of 10. Maybe even more when you look about the landing. And I say that it still is 10 out of 10. Once you basically get familiarize yourself with its quirks, the modern game, you notice that it's a real good one. So, see ya. I was a bit wrong. You can press the options button and boom, you get to the original beautiful Tomb Raider style. Absolutely seamless transition, although it's a bit of abrupt being just quick flash. So, but you could really say that, yeah, the remaster is kind of nice looking, but the original one is just has, I would call it magic. It gives me a sense of achievement or longing towards this kind of more simple era times. But anyways, this was the end. Real nice extra detail that they added, which I would say in this kind of remaster it was mandatory.